Today on the BRS TV 52 FAQ, we're talking about the dangers of changing salt brands. Are there any? Hi, I'm Ryan R.T. Turner, one of your hosts of BRS TV, with another episode of 52 FAQ, where each week we answer your questions from our popular 52 Weeks of Reefing series. This week, we're answering Stephen O'Brien's question from week 39. I just inherited a 120-gallon reef tank, and I'd like to perform my first water change on it. I don't know what brand of salt was being used before. Is this an issue? Okay, so everyone has been on the hunt for the best salt out there since the first time a reefer added a coral to a tank. Many of us have used the same salt since day one, and others are constantly changing in search of the Holy Grail. Open and honest, I think this whole thing's blown a bit out of proportion. It's important that you start with a high-quality source water and salt mix, but it's 100 times more important that you maintain that water and its parameters afterwards. So that being said, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that pretty much any salt out there is what I'd call good enough. You can definitely have success with all of them. The question is just, can I achieve more success, meaning healthier, faster growing corals with another brand? I consider this very much like pet food. They all have different ingredients and different approaches to health, growth, and quality control. You're never going to know for sure which one is best for your pet, but we all pick one that fits a mindset that speaks to us and our budgets. With salt mixes, the budget doesn't really come into play as much. While they do range a bit in price, the net difference for most reefers with average size tanks is likely only $5 a month between the cheapest and the most costly. A quick look at the different types of salts out there. Instant Ocean and Reef Crystals, being one of the lowest cost options, can be found in many of the big box pet stores, and because of that, probably the most widely used as well. In many ways, it's similar to the Purina or Iams of the pet world. Very popular foods which people have had decades of success with and will continue to do so for a long time into the future. Outside of that, we start to look at specialty salt mixes which have specific desires or goals. Red Sea is a good example. They have a more natural approach to reefing. The primary component of a salt mix is sodium chloride, which they get from evaporation ponds or water from the Red Sea's evaporated out, preserving all kinds of natural elements from the Red Sea. This natural approach is obviously very attractive to many reefers. The flip side of this is a more scientific approach many of the German manufacturers take by using synthetic purified salts. Synthetic meaning rather than using salts from mines or evaporation ponds, they create the sodium chloride and other ingredients from raw elements, which produces an almost contaminant-free salt. Pretty much any industry where high purity is critical, like pharmaceuticals, they're going to use synthetic salts over mined or evaporated. To that, they add back in every important element in controlled quantities to a precise balance of elements in an ultra-pure salt mix free of impurities, which are found in more natural sources. A few good examples of salts like this are the HW Marine Mix, Coral and Zook Reefer's Best, and Tunzi salts. Not surprisingly, all these are German companies because this high purity exacting approach absolutely matches the German mentality, especially as it relates to reefing. Okay, so if you're like Stefan and want to change salts, what kind of issues are you going to run into and what type of considerations should you have? Well, to be frank, it's not a big deal as long as you apply the same simple universal logic you apply to any water change. Small 10% water changes inherently mean that 90% of the water is the same, and there's almost no chance you're going to see any impact even if the salt is drastically different than the one you were using. Let's say the new salt had an impossibly low DKH of 5 and your tank was 10. A 10% water change will only bring it down to around 9.5, which is going to have no noticeable impact on an otherwise healthy tank. This is going to be true for basically every parameter in the tank, and doing a slow changeover is completely safe. Keep in mind that all these salts are various degrees of good to great, and none of them are likely to cause a detrimental impact to the tank regardless of how big the change is, as long as you keep the stability fundamentals in mind. Meaning, make sure the salt mix is a similar calcium, alkalinity, temperature, and salinity level as your tank. It will almost certainly go smoothly even if you do larger changes. On occasion, you might hear of someone who had a detrimental impact from changing salts, and it's almost always traced back to either the tank being fairly stressed to begin with, or they did a water change with the salt that was very dissimilar to their tank's parameters. For instance, KZ Reefer's Best typically runs around natural seawater alkalinity of 7 DKH, and it probably isn't a super wise move to instantly switch to the Coral Pro salt from Red Sea, which runs an elevated DKH of 11 to 12. If you do, start with small changes until most of the water's been changed out. There are also a few oddball salts out there with strange elements mixed in like solid carbon dosing components. I'd absolutely start slow with this as well if you find value in what they offer. Hopefully we shed some light on why someone might want to switch salt mixes, and it's not as big of a deal as you might have thought. Just make sure that most of the parameters are fairly similar to what you're currently running in your tank. If you're looking for more info on salt and water, check out week 7, how to produce the best water possible. If you have any questions or tips for either us or the BRS community, let us know in the comments area down below. In today's poll, we're asking all of you what your favorite salt mix is, so share your opinion and check out what others are using. I'll see you in the next BRS 52 FAQ, where we answer Aaron Lunston's question: what kind of water storage tanks are those in the back of the video?